Hello and welcome to Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope all is well with everything. So Thursday is Earth Day. It is the 22nd of April, and a lot of people don't. I don't know. Is Earth Day a big thing? It should be. It should be every day is an Earth Day, and it was. I like. I'm a nerd, and I like to do facts and all sorts of good stuff. And so I'm going to teach you a couple fun facts about Earth Day. And Earth Day was founded in 1970 by Gaylord Nelson, who was a senator for Wisconsin at the time. And he saw that there was a lot of pollution going on, and there was a lot of things that we were doing that was causing pollution in the earth and the atmosphere and the ozone. And he wanted to raise awareness of pollution and how we're polluting our world and a little bit destroying it at the time, especially, I believe, in the 70s, aerosols were big and everything, because that's what I grew up with. And I remember a big thing about that. And so anyways, he wanted to bring that attention. And so he's like, what week can we do it? And his big goal was reaching out to the children, reaching out to the students, because he said, well, this is our future. These are the people that are going to be running the country and be helping us in the future. And so we really got to reach them to make sure that they're more earth conscious. And so he picked the April 22nd because at that time, most spring breaks fell between that week, between the final exams and spring break. So he thought that, well, hey, what a great time to do this during this week, because that will maximize student involvement. Because if people are worried about their studies or they're in school and stuff, they're not going to be as involved. So that's how April 22nd was there. At the time, the very first Earth Day was only 10%, 20 million people in the United States took part in Earth Day, or I think 20 million all over the world, actually, my mistake. Only 10%, and now I think it's up to like 65% or something, so it's a big jump. But sadly, a statistic that I found out is still 80% of plastics that were ever made are still around on the earth today. And yes, it takes a long time for plastic to break down and to biodegrade. And but this is why we got to be conscious of who we are, our habits, and everything like that. We just don't toss things on the street, and we're trying to get away. My house is completely free, has been for over 20 years, of any microwaves, plastics, Teflon, all sorts of stuff. And if it doesn't break down in the earth, I don't have it in my house. So, but all right, guys, enough about that silliness. We're always live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, LinkedIn, and Daily Motion. And of course, the replay will be in the links below as always. So, guys, I am so excited about tonight's show because I have such an amazing guest for you. I met this lady and our vibes just clicked. She has a wonderful personality. She's got great knowledge, and I just think her story is just amazing. And when I heard her story, I said, you know what? I want to have her on the show. And this lady is named Jenny Mannion, and she healed herself in 3 weeks of a 7-year chronic disease, which ignited her passion to help others. She is an author, a speaker, a teacher, and an intuitive healer who inspires people to love themselves and manifest the lives they desire with ease and grace. Her clients have healed from depression, cancer, MS, and various other challenges. And Jenny has also been on PBS and over a dozen radio shows. Her online course and community, Embracing Bliss, helps her to step in the highest vibrations and versions of themselves possible. So, everybody, please help me welcome Jenny Mannion.
Thanks so much. I'm so grateful to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for all that info about Earth Day. I did not know it went back that far.
Yes, it does. It does. I'm a big nerd. I really am. I love studying. If you could see all the books, and I have, I love to study. I love knowledge, and I think it's important for us to understand the history of where things come from. So it helps us understand why we do traditions.
Absolutely.
So before we get into what you're about and everything like that, tell people who you are as a person.
I am I'm someone that really loves to inspire others. I am I I really try to be my authentic self and really live from love as much as I can every day. I have all those labels: teacher, author, intuitive healer. But really, it's about connecting to people. I really do. When I connect with a client, I really do feel like they are the only person in the world,
Yes.
and really, I go into any session with no judgment because we've all been through so much. And I know that it's been really interesting. I majored in psychology and originally wanted to be a psychologist. And, here I am doing this work in a different capacity. But I really I identify with people's stories. I empathize with people's stories, and I am always amazed at the strength that people have to make it through really horrendous situations. And I know that sometimes we can use that story as, and fall into, I don't like that word victimhood, but like feeling like we have limits.
Yes.
And it is my, kind of goal, passion to show people that there are no limits and that no matter where you came from, you are worthy of love, you're worthy of a good life, and to help them step into that self worth and remove the limits so they can move forward in whatever area. It could be health, could be relationships. Usually it affects a bunch of different
Yes,
areas if we
it
have low
does.
self worth. So, yeah, I mean, helping people to just embrace loving themselves.
Absolutely. Victimhood, being a victim is something we all play because that's part of the ego that gets involved. And we're taught that in this society. We're taught limitations because right away our parents start telling us no, and you got to do this, and something's going to punish you, and all these rules. And then school and so we get conditioned to saying, well, this is the life I have to go. I have to go through school. I have to go through high school, college. I have to get a job, get married, do this, work from 9 to 5, and I got to do all these things. And we forget about who we are, and our mind gets conditioned to seeing, oh, well, I can only do this. I can't do this. I can't have any fun. By a certain age, you're supposed to grow up. You're supposed to, and you know what? Hey, I'm 43 years old, and I'm still young by all means and everything, but I'm still loving it like a 20-year-old. I still like watching my car because there's a joy in that. There's an innocence in that, and I think that what ends up happening to a lot of us is that victim part of our mindset starts to diminish our strength because, as you said, we have personal power. We have that inner strength, and a lot of us forget that we have it.
Yeah, if we're repeating the old stories that were told to us by teachers or our parents or a sibling, anyone in our life that we looked up to, it can really carry with us. And we're repeating that, and we might not even believe it. We don't believe it at soul level, that's for sure,
Yes,
but
yes.
we're so used to repeating that we hold those limits, over our own heads. And it's challenging. I mean, you have to become present. You do have to start listening to that and love yourself enough to be like, I don't believe that. How do I work on changing that? I believe that
Yes.
I could achieve more or I'm worthy of more. You hear about, I'm sure you've had friends that repeat the same cycle in relationships,
Yes.
and if that part isn't healed in you, you're going to keep attracting the abuser, whether it's, mentally,
Yes.
spiritually, whatever. But it really is on working on ourselves. We do create the life of our dreams. It has to begin with us.
One of the hardest challenges is admitting to ourselves that we have limitations because everybody wants to sit there and think that they're open-minded and they're free. And one of the hardest challenges is realizing, I'm not as open-minded and free as I think I am and it's not to your fault. That doesn't make you a
Hmm.
terrible person. It doesn't make, that is the way our brain is conditioned because our brain loves patterns. It likes comfortability. It likes to be, hey, this is the route I'm going to go. This is the way I'm going to do. These are the neurons I'm going to fire. This is the emotion I'm going to attach myself to. And that's what it likes to develop. And so the hardest challenge is looking at ourselves and saying, you know what, is yes, I have limitations, because even with my clients, what I do is I say, well, you know, what if I told you that 99% of what you believe isn't actually what you believe? It's you believe it because you've been told it, and because you've heard it so many times, you adapt that. Okay, it must be true because the world believes this. And I love the fact that you started out as a psych major, because a lot of people don't realize that helping people and doing this type of work has a lot of psychology to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that I can work on the energetic level too, because there is, I mean, it's when we change those thoughts that we're changing our energy. That is really what we're doing. I mean, that's how I healed myself. When you change your thoughts, you are creating new neural pathways. You are creating, new cells, healthier cells, and you really owe it to yourself to do that. And yeah, when you're looking at those thoughts, try not to judge yourself so harshly on them. If a dear loved one, a friend would tell you something, you wouldn't judge them. You would just love them. And
Yes.
that's what I always tell my clients is to speak to yourself like you would a best friend.
Yes.
Start
Yes.
listening to yourself. You're probably not talking to yourself like that, because I know even after 15 years of studying, I'm still struggling with that sometimes. So
Yes.
it is just not our natural go-to.
Yes.
So, loving ourselves, and yeah, I roll my eyes at myself a lot. Oh, really? That's that again? Like, I mean, we're human. It's okay.
Yes.
Loving that part of ourselves, giving ourselves that inner hug and being like, okay, well, where do I want my mind? What's a healthier message to send myself?
Yes.
And joy, I think, is a big thing too. Like, so many people are just so caught up in the distractions, they don't even know what causes them, brings them joy anymore. So to really get people to reconnect with, your love of history, whatever it is that sparks that excitement in you, that's your soul, calling out to you. And that's what's going to help you maybe find your way back to, those things that you love, which is you.
Yes. You is the most important part, isn't it? Because
Yes.
we're so taught to go outside. It's everything. We got to make the money. We got to have a family. We got to please this person. I have a bunch of friends that are pleasers, and they sit there and they say, well, besides you, Miss Raina, like, I don't have any friends I trust. They all take advantage. I'm like, because you're given into them. You're given into that idea that you're not worth it. You have this mindset that well, if what brings me joy, what brings me happiness is to please people, because if people like me, then myself is liked as well. And it's like this weird idealistic thing that we have to go outside of ourselves, because we believe in separation. And separation is this idea that a lot of us think that, okay, well, I mean, I know in the spiritual community we say we have one, but we're all one. But I know a lot of people that still say, well, we're separate from each other, and they believe in that separation. And I think that's the hardest part to understand, is when we view ourselves and we're going out in that separation looking for that joy, we lose who we truly are, and we can't find it.
I totally agree with everything that you just said. Yeah, and I think, last year there was a lot more separation. There's been a lot more separation. So it really is in like finding the commonalities you have with people. Where is the love? There's always fear or love. If you can find that love space, you're going to be okay,
Yes.
and I'll have people like hold their hands on their heart and bring to mind like someone that they love. Close your eyes, bring to mind someone that you love,
Yes.
and it can bring tears to your eyes. We could beat ourselves up all day, but really give ourselves credit for something,
Yes.
bask in love? Like, who does that?
Right? Right. It's sad. It is. And that's where we have to have compassion for everyone and ourselves, is because, one of the things I ask people is, okay, well, what do you want from life? Well, I want to be loved. Well, what is love? And then they look at me like a deer in the headlights, and they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, how can you find it if you don't know what it is? How can you achieve it if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't understand the idealistics of love? And I was like, are you looking for romantic love? Are you looking for someone to love you? Are you looking for self-acceptance? Or what are you looking for? And in that thing, you can tell that that they're like almost in shock that wow, I'm chasing an idea that I have no clue what I'm chasing.
Yeah. And if you don't love yourself, you're not going to attract a healthy person to you either.
Yes.
It is really on kind of doing that inner work and loving those things because you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone that adds, like, oh, this is fun. I get, even more adventure. I'm
Yes.
happy with this person on this journey with me, not just, yeah, attracting people to, I am, I've always been a helper. So in the past, I've attracted wounded birds to me,
Yes.
and, knowing your boundaries is really important. And that's something that takes that self worth too, because you have to know that if you are spending all your time taking care of other people, you're not going to have anything left.
Yes, and I think that's where we get the most tired because there's the body fatigue and then there's mental and emotional fatigue and of course spiritual fatigue, but they all kind of tie in. But a lot of us, I know there's people that come in here and say, you know what, I eat healthy, I do all this stuff, but I'm just so tired. I sleep, I could sleep 12 hours, and I wake up and I'm still. I'm like, that's because you're tired inside. Your soul, your mental,
Yeah.
your emotional is tired. You have to take care of that. It's great that you're chiseled and you look like a statue of Venus or something, but when you're not taking care of yourself in those aspects, those are the aspects that keep on going all the time because our soul and our body have a way of reminding us constantly, hey, this needs to be taken care of.
Yeah. And we push ourselves. I wound up, sick for 7 years, and that was because I was a perfectionist. Wanted to take care of everyone, take care of everything. My house needed to look just so, and yeah, had to let that stuff go.
Yes. It's like, whoa, let go of the reins.
Yeah,
It's like, how scary is that? I got to
it
trust somebody else to
is.
do something.
Yeah, but it is, we know by studying this stuff, it is in letting go that the
Yes.
miracles happen, that we do kind of discover our inner self too and allow for that. And I know that it was that perfectionistic lifestyle that got me sick.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jenny, when we come back from the break, I want to talk to you about how you got sick and all that stuff because I think that's a very interesting part of your story. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that want to hear it, but we're going to take a break and we'll be right back after these messages.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561 318 0006. That's 561 318 0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. And if you're just joining us, we have the incredible Jenny Mannion with us. And Jenny, you have your story is a very interesting story. And I want to share it with you because you said that you reversed your sickness, your illness after 7 years in just 3 weeks. Can you tell me about your sickness and how you got sick?
Sure. Well, how I got sick is kind of the after looking back. I know that a lot of the way I was talking to myself and just my way of life of being a perfectionist did contribute to me getting sick. But I was diagnosed with a bunch of diseases. First, it was chronic mono, then it was fibromyalgia, then it was a genetic blood disorder, factor V Leiden. And when they told me that, they told me I was much more likely to get blood clots. Manifested one of those within a month of them telling me. Wound up in the hospital for a week with a blood clot in my leg. And the last was the most serious. It was Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which that led them to say that I'd probably be in a wheelchair as soon as a year, and this was in my mid 30s.
Wow.
So those were, yeah, the four main. And I basically felt like I had the flu all the time, and the pain concentrated in my legs, but there was pain all over, and so bad that some days it was like I was crawling down the stairs, couldn't get out of bed, didn't know if it was safe to drive my kids anywhere, really, really in tremendous amounts of pain.
Wow. Wow, that I couldn't imagine feeling like that all the time. It's got to affect every aspect of your life when you're sick like this, because I mean we go about our day, we're healthy and everything, and I mean I know just having the flu, that's horrible, and to feel like that, plus not have to worry about clots, and then mobility issues and everything, that must what I mean, that must have derailed your mindset.
Totally derailed my mindset. And it's so interesting, Miss Rena, because we're not kind to ourselves when we get sick. We beat ourselves up. I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not doing enough as a wife. I'm not showing up to, support whatever my parents have going on, just or friends, you're just insulting yourself all the time, which does not, contribute to you healing, believe it or not,
Yes.
makes you feel worse. It makes you feel really like really just defeated, disempowered.
Yes.
And it really is hard to heal from that totally disempowered state.
It's like my listeners have heard my song and dance over and over, but I know you haven't. But I recently came down with a heart issue, and I was playing football, and I ended up not feeling well, getting dizzy, and then collapsing on the football field, and back in this past February, and they rushed me to the hospital, and they said, we're gonna have to operate, your valve's not doing, and they want to put me on all these medications, and I said, you know what, no, it's so much more than that, because there was a lot of unresolved anger from my past trauma and stuff. I was abused, and so there's things I never took care of, or I took care of them to a point, but I never finished. And that anger and that energy just kept manifesting until it finally injured my heart. And I said, no, 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 I'm gonna turn to my Chinese medicine like I always do, my herbs and everything, and I'm just gonna take care of what I did. The moment I changed that mentality, my heart shifted, and you could feel it, and you could start to feel like it took me still a while, and I'm still doing it, but it just shifted everything about it, and you could feel like my energy started coming back, my heart started working a little more properly, and everything just shifted. So when I heard your story, I was like, absolutely. And because I know there's people out there going to be like, what, you healed your body, from these sicknesses in 3 weeks? That's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. But our mindset does. I'm so glad you listened to your intuition and your heart. And I'm a big fan of Chinese medicine. I have an
Perfect.
acupuncturist instead of a doctor, so I totally, get that too. And yeah, I mean, just think about it though, like, okay, we're telling ourselves something all the time. I was focusing my energy, all my heart and energy on my legs, saying, so upset I can't walk. I'm so sad I'm sick. I'm so sad I'm in pain. Like, we are not allowing any other reality in when we do that. So for those 3 weeks, it was actually seeing The Secret is what sparked it. There were things up that led up to me being able to see The Secret that sparked
Yeah.
it, but seeing the movie The Secret, I was like, you know what? I'm a psych major. I didn't do any of this stuff. Like, I just bought into the doctors know what's best.
Yes.
Let me get more tests. Let me get more diagnoses. Let me trust them. And I was like, you know what? What if I started to and for 3 weeks, I canceled my doctors, except for I was on a blood thinner at the time. So had to have that regulated. But I'm like, I'm not going to doctors for a little while. Let me see what I can do, and I didn't know if I could heal myself. That was not my intention. My intention was
Yes.
to feel better than I was feeling. And I dove into, the traditional ones: Eckhart Tolle,
Yes.
Deepak Chopra, Caroline Myss, read Think and Grow Rich, like read all about the power of the mind, Wayne Dyer, and just really, it started to make sense to me.
Yes.
And what I said was, I can practice gratitude. I have a lot of things to be grateful for. I have my kids, if I can't run after them, I can read to them in bed. I have a comfy bed, I have support, I was working on an invention at the time, but I wasn't bringing in money. That's okay. I have that monetary support. When we sit and pay gratitude, it is just it bubbles up that love
Yes.
inside of us. And gratitude, I do feel, was the biggest thing that helped me to heal. Gratitude, but also shifting my attention. Like, instead of focusing on my legs that hurt, I'd concentrate on my little finger and be like, my little finger feels great. There's healthy cells inside my little finger. That means I'm not totally unhealthy. There's parts of me that are healthy.
Yes, yes.
And just taking that little bit of focused energy and the other stuff, I always say it's like static on a radio when those thoughts that are like meh, 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 like, but then when we focus in on what we want, like that is a clear signal that we're sending
Yes.
out.
Yes.
And that's what I was doing. I was taking those bits of time to, watch 2 hours of Deepak or Wayne Dyer, and then set intentions about what I wanted, or imagine myself, there are healthy cells in my body, or dip into gratitude, and really starting listen to myself was horrific. Oh, that was bad. And I did do the rubber band trick where you put the rubber band on your wrist
And
and
you
you
snap
snap
it.
it when you say, yeah, my wrist was really red that day.
A little
So,
reinforcement therapy, huh?
but it was really important for me to see how negative I was. And I don't think I considered myself a negative person. I wouldn't go on antidepressants because I was like, I'm sad because I'm sick. I'm not going on antidepressants that are going to block me feeling anything. For me, that wasn't the answer. But, at some point I did take pain pills, and I do feel like I was very scared of them. I lived in New York City. I saw a lot of addiction. So, took like a quarter of the dosage and saw that even increase, like needing to increase. But I was like, at least that gave me a peek into what not feeling pain was like. And it
Yes.
gave me something to strive for. I want to feel this way without these things. And that was the first thing to go. After healing myself in the 3 weeks, the pain pills actually went less and less through that time. And after the 3 weeks, they were gone.
Listening to ourselves is one of the hardest things to do because we're not focused on ourselves. Like we were talking about earlier in the show, we're always focused on everybody else, everything else. And, people hear this idea of gratitude and they think, oh, well, I need to be grateful for the things I have. No, it's not about your car. It's not about your home. Of course, you should be grateful for those things. It's not about materialism. And that's one of the reasons why, I think we lose that idea of what gratitude means in our country is because we're a very materialistic based country, and we are, and I love my country, I love my people in it, but the fact is who we are, and unfortunately we lose that. And it's not being grateful for what you have, it's being grateful for your experiences. Like, I'm grateful for a lot of the things that I've experienced through my life. I'm grateful for a lot of the things, a lot of the trauma, even the trauma that haunted me for many years and got me into positions where it caused chaos in my life, like anxiety and stress and PTSD, and that I still had to learn to be grateful for that, because those experiences taught me something and allowed me to get to a point of evolution. And I don't believe in positive or negative in the sense of this negative is bad. I believe in limited perception, because if we understand how positive and negative work, it's more like an attraction. Both one and the same have to balance through each other. And so when people sit there and your outlook is like exactly what you're saying, well, I'm sick, I'm in pain, I can't do this anymore, I'm not a good mom, I can't do that. That type of limited perception keeps us in those low vibrations. And how can you grow? How can you experience anything and grow into a person of like what you got through if we're in that perception of limitation?
Absolutely. And it is usually our toughest challenges that bring us those greatest gifts.
Yes.
I probably wouldn't have become a healing practitioner or gotten into some of the woo woo stuff that I love, unless I went through that. And,
Yes.
Maybe 6 months after, I wouldn't have seen that so clearly or been able to say that, but now I see it very clearly. That was one of the biggest gifts of my life, because it did ignite my passion for helping others and gave me the spiritual path to follow,
Yes.
to embrace those things along the way. And gratitude is, I do think it is the most powerful. Gratitude and love. You got those, you got it made.
Well, but you're right. I mean, because compassion and gratitude, love, I consider kind of all the same thing. Because when you're compassionate, you have gratitude. When you're gratitude, or when you're grateful,
Yeah.
you have compassion. You love, and so those are all interchangeable. And you're absolutely right. And it's sad sad that so many of us don't see, like, we give our power over to ideas. We give our power over to things, and they don't see what's actually going on a lot of times. And they say, oh, well, and we rely on other things to help us. We rely on other ideas, other places, other ideologies, everything to fix us. And I think as we advance, especially we're going through a human evolution period right now, and I think the people that are learning that, hey, you know what? It's really up to me. This is my mindset. I'm in charge of my life. Once those people are going to start transforming and moving into the life that they want, and those people that still refuse to see them as the power are going to be stuck in that type of chaos.
I agree. I agree. And we always have that power in every moment to pull ourselves back. And like we were talking about before, that joy helps. Like what can you look forward to? One thing I have my clients is come up with a list of 10 things that they love to do.
Yes.
Like you need that list because we can get very drawn into our self-sabotage mode, and those comfy habits that aren't so comfy. So yeah, I mean, to have that list of 10 things, what makes you feel good? Is it the
Yes.
bath? Is it the walk in the woods? Is it dancing around your house? Is it cooking a great meal? Like something that is for you and that's going to nourish you.
Absolutely. And I think self nourishment is the best. And it's not just about diet and everything, because,
Right.
yes, that is a big part of it. You still got to eat healthy. You still got to move. The body needs movement, the physical aspect of it, because we are in a human body and we have to take care of that as much as possible. But it is more of understanding that there's a mental and an emotional aspect as well. And that has to be nourished as much as possible. So, you're using energy. You're using, because of the mind, the thought process is consciousness, and that's
Yes.
using energy to transform. And so, can anybody learn to use their energy, even if they're unsure of what's going on?
Absolutely. I think that thought is really important, but also that the mindfulness, but also that present moment. Like, okay, you got to call yourself to the present moment to be mindful. So, how do you do that? You
Yes.
could do that through breathing. I like the rubbing your hands together and then holding them apart and feeling energy, kind of taking yourself, if you have a busy mind like I do, like I have to trick myself into meditating. Okay, I'm going to rub my hands and feel energy. Okay, I'm going to breathe and, pay attention to my breath. Okay, I'm going to repeat a mantra that I love in my mind. Any of
Yes.
those things are putting your hands on your heart and bringing yourself to love, remembering something you're grateful for yourself for. I love having people do this too because we'll beat ourselves up. What do you love about yourself? That's such an uncomfortable question, for
Yes.
people, but maybe you're a good listener. Maybe you make a, mean pancakes, like you do something that, you're proud of, and focusing on that is going to empower you. And it doesn't take that long. Like I said, setting that clear signal, if you do that a couple times a day, especially the morning and night are most powerful when your subconscious is kind of tuned in there, you're going to start seeing changes in your life, and things do magnetically start coming to you. And, you attract the people that are going to help you. You attract the resources that are going to help you. And it can be baby steps. I know people get very overwhelmed. Well, I have this big trauma to heal. Like, well, what?
Yes.
Let's take little baby steps. Let's windows of time. Let's take windows of time. Shower, wonderful window of time. You're in there anyway. Water is healing. Usually we got our
Yes.
to-do list going. Why don't you instead focus on gratitude that you have water? Focus on letting the negativity going down the drain. What do you want for the day?
Yes.
Saying something you're grateful for. We have all these little windows of time where we can switch our mind, and those windows are really important because, and even during the day, setting a timer on your phone. Where am I? What have I been doing the last 10 minutes? Where's my brain been? What have I been telling myself?
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't have to be hard, but we have to give ourselves permission to make it easy, and to make that effort. It does take a little effort.
I think the hardest part about what do you love about yourself is the fine line between egotism and finding what you love about yourself. Because I know there's a lot of spiritualists that give over their power saying, "Oh, in healing, no, I'm not doing anything. It's the universe. I'm this insignificant person and I can't like anything. I can't acknowledge anything about myself because then that's egotism and I got to shed all that." And it's like this really weird concept that people create in their mind to keep them powerless. It's like, no, it's like you are a part of that. You are doing stuff. It's not like you're just being used to do things. And when you understand that power and you're saying, well, I love this because I'm capable of this, as long as you're not making yourself better than somebody, as long as you're
Right.
not putting someone else down, like they're down here and you're here, then that changes the mindset that's into egotism. But when you can say that, hey, you know what, I'm really good at this and I'm happy I'm good at this because it makes me happy and you know what, and I'm proud to be able to do this because that's what I love to do, then that's a different mindset. And I think that's the hardest thing for us to do. But Jenny, we're going to take a break and we're going
Sounds
to be
good.
right back after these messages, okay?
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561 318 0006. That's 561 318 0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. And if you're just joining us, we are in the last part of the show. And Jenny, I have been having such a wonderful time with you. I think we can do this all night. Well, one of the things that you were talking about before we left the show was meditation. And meditation is, a lot of people are like, I can't focus. Some of my best meditations is actually when I'm riding my bike. I'll ride for 25, 30 miles and I don't and I zone out and I go into a meditation and the next thing I know I'm back at home and I'm like, wait a minute, what, where did I just ride to? And I love doing that because yes, it is hard. And everyone thinks that there's a certain thing that you have to do. Like you have to follow a certain instruction in order to reawaken or in order to be this advanced thing. And yes, there are some people that are capable of meditating for hours on ends. There are some people that aren't. There's a different way for everybody. How can people reawaken their energy in themselves so that they can start looking inward?
I love that you ride your bike to meditate. And that's such an important point that meditation doesn't have to look like sitting cross legged on a mountain and, chanting Om for, 5 hours. Be nice if we all had that time and,
Right, right.
but it's really anything that takes you into that zone of freeness. Like for me, it's dancing and writing is meditating because I'm kind of outside of myself. It feels so like
Yes.
connection to me. Anything that brings you joy is meditating. Also nature. Being in nature is as healing as it gets. Go stand by a tree, go, if you're stuck inside, sit by a flower, look at the plant. It can be really simple. We're the ones that make it complicated. We're the ones that say, "Oh, I have to totally clear my mind and, I can't clear my mind." Well, yeah, I mean, and even if you set a timer for 10 minutes and say, "You know what? I'm going to try to breathe. I'm going to,
Yes.
pay attention to my breath and the thoughts that come up, I'm going to look at them because
Yes.
maybe they need to be looked at."
Yes.
But that's okay. I'm not going to beat myself up saying, "Oh, here's another thought. I'm doing it wrong." Because that's not meditating. That's you beating yourself up. So it really is about what what takes you to that space, knowing what takes you to that space, what brings that passion, what brings that sense of connectivity. And also there's like the cheating meditations, there's guided meditations, like do those. There's 10 million on YouTube you could pull up, to really take you to that space. Sometimes it's easier if you're following a guided story, to get to that space. And you'll go in and out, put on a long one so you're kind of in and out. And that
Yes.
in and out space is also the meditation. You don't have to be listening with your full attention the whole time, but kind of it's that space in between.
Yes.
We've all had that moment where we're like, that was kind of nice. Where was I there? It's that daydreamy
Yes.
space. You can think of it like that too. And just knowing that one of the meditations I love to do is to close my eyes and just, what do I hear? You know, oh, I hear the water dripping. Oh, I hear the wind blowing. That's a meditation. Like trying not to make it complicated and trying not to beat yourself up and just taking that space, you know, once a day is great, more times a day, even better, but little windows of time. The shower can be a meditation. Those little windows of time, like I said before, the morning and at night are really important because as you go to sleep, you've heard that thing, never go to sleep mad. You really
Yes.
will kind of wake up in that space. So to go to sleep saying something you're grateful for the day, or saying something you're grateful for in yourself, or letting go of whatever you feel like how you misstepped that day or what you said that you didn't like, letting that go is really powerful for that creation the next morning.
It's funny because I know a lot of people and they say, well, the, I lay down and all of a sudden my mind starts going and I start thinking about things and everything. And in Chinese medicine, that's heart. It's a heart yin deficiency because the heart houses the shen, which is the mind. And it's funny because and I tell them, I was like, well, you got unresolved things you got to take care of. Your mind doesn't constantly tell you things over and over, especially the same things. If it's for fun, it's not like, hey, what can we pick out of our file system here and annoy you with the whole day for 6 weeks or 6 months or years. Yeah, and it's funny how we ignore that. The reason why we can't meditate, the reason why we can't get quiet is because we're not working on ourselves. We're not taking the time to hush the mind. The mind is telling you that, and I'm talking about this mind. I'm not talking about this mind. That's just
Hmm.
the physical aspect. But this
Hmm.
mind is telling you, hey, we got stuff to work on. We have to start looking at this stuff. And yes, we make it complicated. I love that you said that. We make it so complicated because we sit there and we think that it's got to be all this extravagant stuff. I take a lot of my clients out to the tree in my back and I just
Oh,
and
it's
I have fun with them because I'm like, all right, hug the tree.
yeah,
Because
I
they think it's
love.
woo woo or whatever, and they're like, "What do you mean hug the tree?" I go, "Put your arms around it and hug the tree." And I just giggle because I want them to have fun. I want them to understand
Absolutely.
that they're creating all this silliness of limitation because they think that they're going to be judged or if they and hey, I'm all good. I'll look like a nutcase. I'll walk in the forest be talking to things, and people think, but hey, but you know what? I'm exercising that, and I think that's important because you said, I believe that a lot of your creativity and meditation come from you writing, right?
Hmm.
And that, and no, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, if you find something creative, and when you get into that zone, that space that you do, that creativity comes out, that channel opens up, and you can actually connect to a deeper self in you.
Oh, you do so much. And I know whether I'm forcing myself to write or whether, like, I can sit
Yes.
and be like, okay, this is my hour to write and nothing will come, or two sentences, or I can write a poem in 10 minutes,
Yes.
So, too, when you're in the flow state and when you're not, and it's better when you're not in that state too. Either, you have two options. You could leave it, and do something else. Or you could take a couple breaths and not beat yourself up about not being in that state. It really
Yes.
is that kindness and laughing at ourselves, not being afraid to get silly. We take ourselves way too seriously.
Yes. And that's because of all the judgment. The society I mean, you would use the term woo woo. And right away I say, I tell people what I do and the first question that they ask me was like, "Are you woo woo?" And I'm like, "What do you mean am I woo woo?" And they're like, "Well, do you like do all this hokey pokey?" And I'm like, "Hokey pokey stuff?" I was like, "No, all the stuff that I do is backed by 3,000 plus years of research and
Yeah,
science."
it
I go,
is. It's the most ancient stuff.
I know, and I go. Plus, now quantum physics and even science is showing that our thought processes that stress is killing us. That all this stuff, and so it's taking what's woo woo and moving
Yeah.
it into. But it's sad that the limitations that we have. And I actually have a bob, one of those punching things, and I used to take martial arts and stuff. And so now what I do is when I have a client that comes in angry, I take him over to Bob. I'm like, go ahead, punch him.
Oh,
beat them up, beat them up. Let that anger out, girl or boy. Let it out because I want them to learn to channel that energy. Because the more you fester it, the more you constantly, you can't get into that space of creativity or love or gratitude because you're holding on to that energy, and it's okay to let it out.
Absolutely. And we know that if we are not listening with our heart,
Yeah.
universe gets bigger and bigger, louder and louder
Yeah.
until we will listen.
Or until we
So
drop on the floor during a football game.
exactly. Yeah, till was in bed for 7 years. So I
Yes.
think I got a few hints before that time.
Yes. Yeah.
So it does pay to listen, tune in and ask your body what it needs, even. I mean, our body is always communicating to us. We are so programmed to be like, okay, it's this time, it's better be lunchtime, or better be dinner time. Like, are
Yes.
you even hungry? Like, have you even asked your body that? Like, to just tune inwards, we do always have the answers, and they do feel like they come from they're from our heart. They're from our intuition. They're from our connection to everything.
Self-worth is something that we lack big time. And self-worth and self-esteem go hand in hand in my eyes. And because they're, to me, they're one and the same. If we have
Mhm.
high self-esteem, then we have high self-worth. And a lot of times we're just looking for that connection to ourselves, even though it may seem, and I hear this all the time, well, once I find the boyfriend or once I find the girlfriend, they're gonna fix me and everything's gonna be all right. And I'm gonna get the kids, I'm gonna get everything I ever wanted. And then they're gonna, and then some people are like, yes, I wasn't happy until life, until I got married and got kids, and that's just temporary. That's just
Right.
a temporary thing because it's like this moving syndrome. How many people move away from the place that they're at because they think that their problems are at home,
Oh
where the
my,
problems are,
I
and
had a
then they move.
few friends
Yeah,
that did that.
and I
Guess
was
what? You take it with you.
yes, I was guilty about that. I was like, you know what? I had a lot of trauma in Chicago, and I just said, you know what? And partly it did help a little bit, but the
Mhm.
main stuff that needed to be resolved were carried with me. And when I left, I felt great the first 6 months. I was like, yeah, new place, new surround. And then slowly the depression started creeping in, the anxiety, and the little voices saying, hey. And then my anxiety, my interactions, and it started to fall apart again. And I think that's one of the great messages that you bring is even if you can't heal yourself in 3 weeks, I believe anybody can heal themselves in any time that they want. But even if it takes a little bit longer for somebody, as long as you start changing that mindset, and that's why I loved your story because it's so empowering to understand that, hey, you know what, I was this person of perfectionism and hard driven and all this stuff that drove me into the ground. And then once I let go of the reins and said, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore and start taking care of yourself, that's when everything changed.
Absolutely. And start where you are. Like, what is the glaring issue? For me, it was my health. Like, after healing, I heard that message, look at your marriage. I was like, no, I'm not ready to do that. Like, like it start where you are. Start with what's really glaring to you. Is your relationship very unhealthy? Is that something you need to look at? What would make you feel better about yourself? And if you're in an abusive relationship, you're not going to feel good about yourself.
Yes.
But you attracted that from a wounded space. It's not to beat yourself up about that. But until we can heal ourselves, we cannot attract the relationship that's best for us.
Yes, and I think you said it best when we're in that wounded space, and that doesn't make us bad people.
No.
And I think that's the hardest part why we get so angry is because we don't look at ourselves, and it's so much easier to point and say, well, he did this to me or she did this to me. It's the woman's fault or it's a man's fault or whoever's fault, and it's my partner's fault, my parents' fault, rather than saying, you know what, it's my responsibility. Because we
Right.
think that if we take responsibility for our actions and our judgments and everything, that it's going to make us a terrible person. And it doesn't. It makes us more empowered. It says, you know what? Okay, I've made choices. Hey, I've had my share of toxic relationships and I had to learn. I said, you know what? I was like, I'm done with this. I was like, this is my responsibility. The red flags were there. I ignored them. I put up with the abuse. I put up with this because I was trying to find some, and that's okay. It led me to who I am now.
Absolutely. Brought to my worst relationship. I was in a meeting with this guy, and a little voice in my head said, run. And I was like, oh oh, but he's so cute. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The worst relationship of my life. Like, sometimes your intuition does no best. Listen to that little voice. It speaks in quick, little,
Yeah.
few words at
Yes.
a time.
And I don't know how many times I hear people, I mean, how many times have people said that to you, Jenny? You know, I heard, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have done it. I knew I should have done this differently. And they don't listen to it because we are trained to say, no, you know what you see is what you get. And this is that. And the world is so much more than that.
It sure is. And everyone deserves the life that of their dreams, and it starts with one step. If you look at everything as a whole, it might seem overwhelming. So
Yes.
pick one thing that
Yes.
you want to work on, and it does begin with that self-talk and knowing that you deserve more.
Absolutely, and I think the self-talk I have a couple no-nos and of my program that I do, and one of them is no, good, bad, positive, negative, backwards, forwards, because those are all limitations in our mind, and they don't really exist. It's just a perception of life that you're not understanding, and so that's part of the self-talk. Well, don't sit there and say I was negative, or this needs to be positive, or this needs to be good or bad, because then you're putting judgments on ideas, and if you don't reach those judgments, if you don't reach those ideas, then all of a sudden I failed because it's bad. I didn't reach it. It's not good anymore. I'm not moving forward. And it creates all this chaos. And you have to, and I tell people, let go of the word negative, let go of the word positive, better, good, backwards, forwards. Let go of those ideas and just focus on you and focus on what you're capable of. And if things don't turn out the way you want them right now, that's okay. Hey,
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla didn't invent light and alternating current the very first time he tried. I mean, how many times did they do it? And they didn't say, oh my God, I'm a failure each and every time.
Yeah. We learn. We're here to learn,
Yes.
and become better versions of ourselves. Just peeling off those layers. I mean, I've been on this journey 15 years, still peeling, but it's okay if we can laugh at ourselves and just forgive ourselves, like love ourselves as we are. You
Yes.
know, you have if you're tuning in to listen to the show, you are looking for ways to better yourself, and that's all we can ask to make our lives easier, more in flow, more fun, more
Yes.
joyful, more healthy, and it does begin with just opening up, and listening to yourself and putting that out there that that is what you want and you deserve.
Absolutely, Jenny. You know, and I hate to say that it's that time because it goes by so fast, and I could do this with you all night. Seriously, you have just such an amazing personality, and I know that anybody that works with you will be beneficial. And but it is that time, so I have to say, if people want to contact you? Can you give them some information?
Sure, they can go to jennymannion.com, JennyMannion.com. And on there, I have my class, I have uh, many gifts, meditations, things that they can listen to. And yeah, would love to connect.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Jenny, thank you so much for being on the show. I honestly hope that you'll join us again in the near future.
I would love that, Miss Raina. I had such a wonderful time with you. I could talk to you forever. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. If you want to follow us on our Facebook, follow us at facebook.com / Transcendental Transformation. Our YouTube is Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Visit my website, soulandspiritguide.com, and sign up for the newsletter to receive hidden shows, access to hidden shows, VIP access, and special guest offers. If you have any questions, email me at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.